Our next speaker explores the science of behaviour. Maria Konnikova is the author of 3 books: Mastermind, How to Think Like Sherlock Holmes, The Confidence Game, and The Biggest Bluff. She's a regular contributor to The New Yorker, has written for The Atlantic, The New York Times, Slate, The Wall Street Journal, and most importantly, Wired. Her writing has won numerous awards, including the 2019 Excellence in Science Journalism Award from the Society of Personality and Social Psychology.
As I've been stressing over and over, the rules of law and things do not matter what the actual number is. All you care about is reading the human being. And that's the essence, not just of poker, but of so much decision-making in life. John von Neumann, who's one of the greatest minds of the 20th century, the father of game theory, the inventor of the computer, of the hydrogen bomb, he's the reason I got into poker. And he has this wonderful about the game. And it goes like this. Real life consists of bluffing, of little tactics of deception, of trying to figure out, what does this man think I mean to do? And that's what games are about in my theory. And that's what Laden thinks is about. And that's what so much decision making is about. What are other people thinking? How attuned are you to them? And how well are you able to out your own biases, your own preconceptions, your own views of the world in order to make the best decision possible? So when I started playing poker, at the beginning, I was not very good. And I was intimidated quite easily by other players. And then I realized something. Other players saw me as female first and as a poker player second. Makes sense. Poker is 98% male. And that's huge. So for a lot of people, I was the only woman they'd play in for days on end. And so once I realized that they were using stereotypes, preconceptions, ideas of how they thought women should play, rather than observing me, observing my behavior, observing what I was doing. So they were doing the polar opposite of what Laden thinks teaches you to do. They were going by stereotype. They were going by bias. They weren't going by, hey, look at this. This is Maria. She's a poker player. This is what she's doing. And these are the inferences I can draw from that. Once I realized that, that's when I started making money and beating them, because all I had to do now was figure out, okay, how do you think a girl plays poker? So some of them would think, okay, well, females are incapable of bluffing. You know what I did? I would start bluffing them relentlessly, and they would just look at me and think, wow, you must have really strong hands over and over. You've just been hit in the face with the deck. And it didn't even occur to them to think, oh, maybe my preconception is wrong. Sometimes it was the opposite. There were some men who thought that basically they would rather die than be caught folding to me if I could possibly be bluffing. Well, you know what I did then? I didn't bluff almost at all. Basically cut it out entirely. But this time, whenever I even had a marginal hand that wasn't particularly strong, I would bet it aggressively, because I knew that they would call me with anything because they did not want to fold to a woman. And on and on and on. The second I figured out that people were playing against me in a very specific female-centric way was the second I could turn it on its head and turn it into my superpower. Because don't get me wrong, being underestimated is as good a superpower as they come, because then you can get away with a lot. But this makes me sound like I'm some sort of expert and everyone else is an idiot. And this isn't actually true. I'm an idiot as well, because all humans operate like this. We all have biases and preconceptions when we look at people. And I had to realize that I did the same thing that people were doing to me. So there was this one time when I was in Monte Carlo playing in what to me was at that point the biggest poker event I'd ever played in. And I was just learning to not be bullied and to stand up to people and to show people that I was capable of sometimes being a little bit aggressive. And so this guy sits down at the table, and I look at him, and he's huge, and he's wearing a t-shirt that shows off his biceps. And those biceps, they're bulging. I mean, those things are huge, and they're covered in tattoos. His head is shaved, and I look at him and I think, I know the type exactly. I will not let you bully me. I will not let you get away with it. I am going to fight back. And so I did. And so when he raised, I re-raised, and he re-raised, and we got all in, which means that all of our chips went in the middle. And he turned over his cards, and he had pocket queens, which is one of the single best hands in poker. And I thought, oops. And I lucked out. I ended up hitting a miracle card and staying in the tournament. And a little while later, my neighbor turns to me and said, "Are you insane? This guy is one of the most conservative players on this poker circuit. Never played with someone whose strategy is as tight as his. I was surprised to see queens. I thought he had kings or aces, which are the only hands that are better than that." And that's when I realized that I do the exact same thing. I also have preconceptions and biases of other players, and sometimes I'm using those to make my decisions rather than objective data. I had no idea how this guy was going to play. I didn't know whether he was going to be conservative, whether he was going to be aggressive. I had no objective behavioral data. And yet I just thought I knew him because of what he looked like. And so, what I'd like you to take away from today is to channel your inner Lauden always, to realize that you have biases, you have preconceptions of what people are going to do. Your job is to get rid of them and to actually observe, and to only use the data that's in front of you, to only look at actual behavior, what people are doing, and not what you think they think or what you think the real answer is. That's not just going to make you a better poker player. I think that's going to make you a much better player at the game of life. Thank you so much.